Okay, so first of all, welcome back to another episode of Show Up with Sarah. I am very excited because this episode is the first of hopefully many. One of the things that I am asked the most is like, well, what does working with you look like? Because granted, I'm an opportunity coach and no one knows what the F that means half the time. So for people to understand what I do is hard. So I put out the fillers, and this is complete manifestation because I had just a day before Lauren and I decided to do this session. I put out an email to some friends and I said, hey, if anybody knows anybody who would like to do an open session, please let me know. And so I want to give people the opportunity to do a session with me where we do a single topic deep dive, the same way I would do with any of my clients, and free of charge, so that we can really get that ball rolling, so that they have the opportunity to do it, but also other people have the opportunity to see and hear what that looks like. And I also think it's really, really great because it will remind you of the most important thing, which is that you are not an island. You are unique as a person, but you being like, oh, I struggle with these things. You don't have to be in a position where you're the only one, because you're not. So I am very excited to bring you my first open session guest. I guess that would be open session client. I don't know what I'm calling it. Lauren. Lauren, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And so, full disclosure, me and Lauren have worked together briefly in the past. And then, like I said, I manifested someone, and Lauren was like, oh, I would love to do this. And so I'm curious, why would you like to do this episode with me?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of full circle for me. When I found you, it was actually a year ago. Was it a year ago? It feels like
Probably.
10 years ago, but it was a year ago. And um, I've told a lot of my friends that I'm with the opportunity coach, and they too are like, what is that? Um, and it was kind of like you were the catalyst that told me, almost kind of warned me about all of these really fun diagnoses that I got from my psychiatrist and my therapist. And I talked to you even before I went to therapy. Um, and in a way, you had me like be prepared for it. And you
Good.
literally told me things before my own therapist, who has a PhD, told me, which I still think to this day is really kind of amazing. Um,
Thank you.
but yeah, so when I was talking to you and consulting with you, it was like right before I learned like official diagnoses, which were like four in total, and they were awful to
Yeah.
hear that I officially had. But I think all along you kind of knew, you
Mhm.
know? But I had never been really like seen like that before. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Um, I mean like really like seen, like uh vulnerable.
Mhm.
Um, that also really sucked, like that wasn't fun. I think I hated every minute of it. And now, like a year later, it's full circle for me because now I'm not so afraid of being seen.
Oh, I love that. That makes me
Yeah.
really, really happy because um so one of the things that I try to get people to understand is that, and you touched on it, that I am in no way, shape, or form being like, like you should listen to me forever and I'm always right and I'm the only one that can help. Like I'm very much of the like I may meet you when you're almost ready. I may meet you when you're considering being ready, and I may meet you when you're actually ready, you know, like um and since I'm not a licensed therapist, I also 100% will be like, this is when you should go talk to a licensed person, right? Because like I can't formally diagnose anybody and I cannot prescribe anything to anybody, you know, like, and I'm never going to act like I can. So I'm really proud of you for the work that you've done. Um, all the way back even before we met, because before we met you were doing some work on your own to mentally get there, because the fact that you even like were like, hey, let's work together, that means that you were considering change, right? So that's super awesome. Also, you look gorgeous, I just want to
Thank
tell you.
you.
I feel
So
like I always tell you that, like I'm like, oh, you look so good.
not
um
enough.
so tell me, where are we right now in terms of what you're working on, or what where maybe you feel a little stuck or whatever.
Yeah, so I think last year was the discovery year, where I was finally able to be vulnerable enough to be seen. So I actually listened to someone on your podcast earlier who is depressed and has major depressive disorder, just like I do,
Mhm.
and was on autopilot for a really, really, really long time and just was numb. And that was 100% me. And I did not want to even be vulnerable enough to know that I was numb. So then when I worked with you, I became painfully aware of why I was numb. And I knew, and so a lot of that time was really just processing what was up, like now I was able to be seen and also see the lay of the land, um, you know, kind of like meet myself, and also see myself. And so this past year, I think now that I've seen myself, I don't really see a lot of things I like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in July, I got fired because I had a disagreement with the CEO, and I didn't like how I was being treated. And I think like finally I was awake enough to know that it wasn't right.
Yeah.
So a lot of this year has been almost like waking up every day and just not liking what I see, and like having enough, well, trying to have enough strength to have that change. And I think it's just like also inherently changed as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And if I meant to or not, I think like I was laughing with a friend the other day and she was like, Mercury retrograde takes out the trash, you know, but like I do really think that it has been a year of just the trash finally being taken out, because I can finally identify that it is trash, if that makes sense.
Yes. So like, and this is the thing that I don't think enough people are aware about, but when you start to become self-aware, like I think that people are like, oh, this is gonna be so great, I'm gonna be able to stop doing this and whatever. And like I always have to remind people like that it's about to like suck a lot, like because when you are like now aware that you speak a certain way to yourself and then you
Mhm.
hear yourself do it, you're like, what the f, like don't do that, and then you keep doing it and you're like, what the f, you know, like, and it sucks. And so I really want to make sure that we take a moment to celebrate the fact that you have gone through that part of it. I mean, obviously it's not over, you know, but like I want to make sure that you know there's a lot of pride that should be there for continuing on. And a lot of times, and if you have, is completely fine, because I've done it like 1,000 times. But like when we are doing this work, at some point we always like need a break, and
Mhm.
we will like kind of regress, or just
Mhm.
like push pause, but sometimes the push pause will like take forever. So I hope that you, if that has happened, you've let it go and you aren't holding on to any like shame around that.
Mhm.
Where do you desire to keep going to? Or like, is there a goal that you have in mind for like, I really want to see myself like in this general space?
So something that just keeps coming up and it'll never shut up is just the fact that I really need to love myself. I
Mhm.
don't really like myself most of the time, which is awful. I love all of my friends. I think all my friends are worthy of like the moon, the stars, everything,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't really say that for myself.
Yeah.
And that's always just been a big issue, like, well, not a big issue, but like the issue, like the root of it, right? So we uncovered that last year that I didn't feel like I was worthy of love. And I think that, yeah, like the trash has been taken out, but it's a far fetch from loving yourself.
Mhm.
Um, so that's like really what I want to focus on is how I can get to start loving myself, if not liking myself.
All right. So let's review and like let's go dig through it, right? So um and I'll just say everything like blunt for efficiency, but also so that you know what I'm saying. So you currently um aren't in love with who you are.
No.
Um are you, is it your personality that you struggle with?
No, I like my personality a lot.
Okay. Physically.
I don't like my body a lot. And we have also talked about how
Mhm.
like, how I tie self-worth in with how I look.
Yeah. Um with your like kind of ambition and focus and career, where are you on that?
That's been humbling this year. Last year when we talked, I would say out of 1 out of 10, I would give that a 10. But then I got fired for my attitude problem. So that was really fun too. But so that like knocked me down to like, I don't know, 6. But I would still like today tell you I'm an 8 because I just think like no matter what, I'll be fine.
When you, the attitude problem that you are talking about, um what the general, what happened?
Yeah. So I got a very, very scathing email. And we might have to edit this out. Am I allowed to say that? Let me think about this.
As long as you don't say any names or
Okay. Okay.
companies, you're good.
Should you re-ask the question?
No, they'll know. If
Oh, okay.
Julian, if you're listening, you can edit that little part out.
Yeah.
Okay, go
Hi,
ahead.
Hillary. Okay. Um, yeah, so specifically, I received an email communication that really, really hurt my feelings. It wasn't constructive, it didn't help me grow as a person, and it was just meant to hurt. And
Mhm.
I guess you could say it was an attitude problem. Society would tell you that, but it wasn't an attitude problem. It was me sticking up for myself and saying, "Oh, I didn't like that. That really impacted me and not in a good way."
Mhm.
Um, and, like they stood by what they said. And I said, well, that's toxic and there's no excuse for it. And then I was fired. So I guess like I did call it an attitude problem, but other people would just call it attitude solution.
Attitude solution. Are you happy with how you showed up in that situation?
Oh my gosh, I think about this every day. I mean, my bank account isn't happy with it. No. There are a lot of fallouts because of that. So, because of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I had to make like a lot of lifestyle changes because I didn't have a steady paycheck like that.
Well, here, I'm
Um,
going to pause you
yeah.
because that's not technically what I'm asking. I'm asking in the moment when you received it and then communicated about it, are you happy with how you communicated and showed up for yourself in that situation?
You know what? I was really happy with it.
Good. Um, so why are you calling it an attitude problem because they called it an attitude problem?
Yes, exactly.
Can I ask why you're still holding on to that label?
That's a great question. I don't know, to be honest with you. I think I'm still ashamed that I did that.
Okay, so what about it specifically do you think makes you feel ashamed of it?
Um, because the result of it was rejection.
Do you feel at any point like the email itself and whatever was written in it, d was any of it true?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that some indications would say that my performance was lacking, and that month my performance wasn't great. But I also know that I had been working there for a year and a half, and the other, 13 months, it was great.
Yeah, yeah. That's fine. Like, no, trust me. I think that you're probably great at your job. I have technically nothing to back that up, but I trust it. So do you have any shame around the reason that you were fired if it felt true?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I have shame that I was rejected, right? Like, there is a personality, difference that just didn't mesh, didn't click, didn't fit in, right?
Mhm.
And I want to fit in. And I want to be liked and I want to like other people. I do genuinely like other people. So just the notion of not being liked and being rejected in that sense is really hard. I have a lot of guilt, not guilt, but shame about
Yeah.
that. And then like, the notion that maybe like I did kind of suck for a month or two with performance. That's so shameful. That's so embarrassing for me. I haven't let that go. That
And
embarrasses me.
why not though? Because like you had 13 months where you did really great work. You have 1 month where you kind of slacked off.
Mhm.
Um, do you know why you slacked off?
Yes, I do.
Tell me.
Um, oh, yikes. Okay. Well, I was in like a relationship with someone that was like soul sucking and was awful
Mhm.
and was a good person, but was like toxic for me, and it really it really affected my work performance and just like me overall.
Okay. So, what I'm hearing is that you were in a mental and emotional space where you were being depleted and
Yeah,
mistreated and all those things. And as it would, it affected your ability to work,
absolutely.
which led to you being fired.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, are you more shamed about the fact that you had one bad month or that you let a relationship impact your work?
Yeah, definitely that I let a relationship impact my work.
Why were you in a relationship that was so crappy? How long did this relationship last? Let me ask that.
It was like 3 months maybe.
Okay.
Um, it was very, like, all-consuming, codependent, it went from, like, 0 to 100 overnight pretty much. Um, and yeah, like, it's not lost on me that it probably is stemming from the root of me not thinking I'm worthy of, like, health of love, of, like, healthy, real, good, positive love.
Yeah. Is this guy that you dated, is he anything like anybody else that you've dated? Is this a cycle at all or a habit?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's backtrack a little bit, right? Um, you're not necessarily holding shame about the fact that you were fired. You're holding more shame about the fact that like you let something that doesn't even relate to work lead to you being fired,
Yeah.
which can feel shameful because there's a lot of like, I can't believe I let this crap affect my
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Um, what? what would it take for you to have some grace for yourself and be like, okay, so I was in a bad place, right? And that sucked and it affected my performance, right? Um, it sucks that I was fired. However, like, what is a positive from like that you learned or were able to take away from leaving that job?
Yeah. Um, so, like, now I know how I can be when I reach rock bottom. I thought that was 2020, but no. Which is actually, like, it doesn't suck. I'm, like, pretty I can definitely get back on my feet. I think, like, for 1 month, I was in bed hiding under the covers,
Mhm.
definitely going through a really major depressive, um
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun, but, like, then I just got up and I just started doing it and putting myself out there, and so I think what I've learned is that I can literally go from rock bottom and I'm still fine.
Here's a question, and obviously we don't know it for sure, but do you think that if um you hadn't been fired and let's say that you and this guy you break up, um you keep working, you meet someone else, do you think that this could have happened again where you would have been dealing with like a similar type of guy?
And no, I think that being fired was the end of that pattern.
So it's possible that being fired kind of gave you like a gut check of like, oh crap, I'm dealing with
Yeah,
really crappy people and it's affecting me in real world ways.
yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so here's what the first thing is, right? Like you have to let go of that shame around being fired because without these sequence of events, you wouldn't have even thought about making some big changes in your life, right?
Mhm.
And you also probably wouldn't be confronting like, man, I don't love myself and that has to get fixed.
Yeah,
And you also have seen like I don't want to say like the worst, but like you've seen how like not being specific with who you let in your life can affect you. Most
mhm,
people don't have the opportunity to experience that. And I know like I say opportunity because it really is an opportunity. It sounds like one of those really crappy opportunities where like you're like this is not the opportunity I want, like, but it is, right? Because like it allowed you to be able to relearn yourself. And it's what you were saying, like I get to meet myself now. So um the first thing that we need to get you on board with is letting go of that shame because it's not going to help you move forward. It's
mhm,
only that self-judgment that keeps you in the past. And there's so much around how this has bettered you and how technically if you look at it, if you step back, you can be like, okay, yeah, actually this all really was to my benefit. Like I mean, I'm crap. I mean, I've let go of so much shame that like it's hard for me to think of like an example, but I mean, I know I used to have a ton of shame around the fact that like I'm a Christian, but I also am like a recovering sex addict. Like
mm,
girl, like keep your legs closed, you know what I mean? But like I also really chose to dive into the belief that like God gave me a part of a story that like I don't love, but I
yeah,
it allows me to connect to more people, right? Like
mhm,
so we can look at our mistakes and our errors and be like, okay, like I can just keep judging myself about this. However, that does not make anything productive or move me forward. I also can allow myself grace because I know I was not mentally or emotionally even there. Like
mhm,
this crap, it hurt and it drained me.
yeah,
And so what like you identified obviously the root, like because I am not showing up for myself and loving who I am, I'm allowing the wrong people in. And the
mhm,
wrong people, like a firm boundary is like if I let the wrong people in, then therefore they affect me mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially.
Yeah.
So, how are ways have are there past occurrences, situations, whatever, where you have held shame about anything and you have successfully like let it go?
Oh my gosh, none. Yeah, none. I'm
Okay.
I'm fully ashamed of all of it.
When you feel really uh shameful about yourself, how do you talk to yourself?
Um, like I tell myself I suck and that I'm like, I'm kind of so one narrative that I've really been listening to, which is awful for me to say this to myself, but I have said it to myself, is that even oh my God, even I have shame about that. God.
Okay.
Um, is like, I feel like a loser, like I lost my job, I don't have a job, I've always had a job, now I'm just an unemployed loser.
No, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Cause like I understand the sentiment behind it. And I just recently had a conversation with a friend of mine who so much of her success and self-worth and self, esteem was wrapped up in the fact that she's always had a job. She's
Yeah.
hard worker. Like she bought a house in like her 20s, like
Yep.
and just reminding her that like what other people see and what we feel and we see, obviously they're two different things, right? Like, however, we can't allow how people see us to be the marker by which we operate, because a lot of times when we don't feel it, even if I'm like, you're gorgeous, I can almost guarantee that like compliment hit off a shiver,
Uh-huh.
right? You didn't even
Yeah.
have to receive it in any way.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, like, trust me, I get it. Like, so the first thing is to determine like when you have shame, how does that present in a way that keeps you at the level you are? So
Mm-hmm.
does it present as you negatively talking to yourself and then getting so depressed about what you're telling yourself that then you don't get up and work out or take care of your animals or anything like that, right?
Right.
Maybe it presents in like, for me, it will present in being really lazy, unproductive, eating junk, whatever. And then that stuff just keeps cycling where
Yeah.
then as I'm being
Mm-hmm.
unproductive, I feel ashamed and blah blah blah, right?
Yeah,
Um, so
definitely.
like what are like three ways that when you are really feeling that shame, you're on a
Mhm.
tidal wave of shame, how does that shame present for you?
Yeah, definitely, definitely, definitely negative self-talk. I mean, it's all encompassing. Also like a lack of productivity, like I just want to be in my bed and hide under the covers.
Mhm.
Um, and then like presents in a lot of ways, to be honest with you. Three is very limiting. Um, um, Yeah, and like, oh, like if it's really bad, it's like I will definitely like eat a lot and drink a lot of wine. And yeah.
All right. So, and I'm tracking all this. That's why I'm repeating it so much. But we have to figure out how to help you let go of shame,
Hmm.
especially around things that you don't. Because you already told me at the top of this conversation, I did not feel, or I'm proud of how I showed up for myself. I'm proud of what I did. Now you're not proud of what got you there, but you're proud of how you showed up for yourself. So
Hmm.
like to still have shame about it means that you're like man, did I show up when someone disrespected me after I allowed someone to disrespect me and ruin my life, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't have to be there. Because the trick with shame is looking at the time before it happened and go, okay, I don't love what happened, and it makes me feel like X, Y, and Z. However, I'm actively working on doing better. And
Mhm.
so I have to give myself grace because I didn't know then what I know now.
Yeah,
Like, the chances of
absolutely.
that happening again are so low, right? Um, and then, like, even though I could have just tucked tail and walked away when I got this email that was disrespectful, I didn't. I showed up for myself, which literally proves that between the time that that relationship just kicked the crap out of me and this confrontation happened with my former boss, I grew. Like, I was like, what the F? No, no, right? Like, is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's yeah, yeah.
Did you feel that in that moment with the email and everything, did you feel like you had a little bit more authority over who you are and how people talk to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Did it feel powerful?
Yes, yeah, I felt like that was the ultimate self-expression of love.
Yes. See? So
Mhm,
you have, like, we have examples, at least one example right now where you have shown up for yourself, you've respected yourself, you have been stepped into your power, and you have been like, hey, this is how people need to interact with me.
mhm.
Now, what, like, the struggling bank account, the anything like that, that has nothing to do with it
Yeah.
because that's a repercussion of technically your past self. It's not a repercussion of when you step into who you are,
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
now you're just in a space to be able to more furthermore, whatever, become who you're supposed to be.
yeah.
And you're practicing all of that stuff. And so, like, one of the things that, I would have you do is look at small to big examples of when you have shown up for yourself. Even
Mhm.
if, like, the repercussions weren't what you want, but when you identified, I don't like how this feels, and then you were like, I don't like how this feels, right? Like,
Yeah,
and it can be as simple as like, um, and I always like to use myself, like, as an example, so because I can't offend myself. But like a few years back, I was on a shuttle at the airport, and or leaving the airport, and this guy, like, the driver was like this, like, small, he looked like possibly like an immigrant, and he, like, really wasn't talkative. And there was this, like, guy that was like, we're parked down there, and the guy goes, oh yes, like, I stop here and then you can get out. And he's like, oh, come on, like, you can't just go to our car. And he just, like, started, like, berating the guy. And I, like, the shuttle was, like, full. And I was like, I don't love this. I don't love this. And then finally I was just like, he's gonna stop at the spot. Hold on a second. Hey, Riker, can you not do that? Um, but yeah, I was like, yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh, he's gonna stop at the spot that he's supposed to, like he's gonna do for the rest of us. So just okay. And the guy was like, who are you? And I was like, I'm someone that doesn't like the way you're talking to this guy. Like,
yeah,
just let him do his job. And
yeah,
then because I said something, like, two other people were like, yeah, you're being really rude. And and like, I just remember feeling so, like, powerful, like, oh my goodness,
yeah.
like, I spoke up when no one else would, and then other people joined me,
Mm,
so I wasn't alone. And so that's a small occurrence, an interaction that took 2 minutes
yeah,
years ago, that, like, when I need to remind myself that I have the ability to step into, like, that authoritative, like, "Up I'm Sarah Hips," like,
yeah,
I have an example. So it doesn't matter how far back you have to go, and it doesn't matter how many you have. When you do this exercise, I want you to really focus on the fact that you have examples.
mhm,
And just focus on how you feel. How did it feel to be full Lauren? How did it feel to own yourself, to own your voice? Because here's the other thing that we need to touch on is the fact that you were in a relationship, and it's not your first, where you were not respected.
mhm,
Now, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to answer
mhm.
them all honestly. Um, when you were younger, uh, let me back up. Have you always been fuller figured?
Always.
Um, did you ever have a time where you loved your physical self?
Yes.
When was that?
Um, Specifically in 2017, it was when I found kickboxing and I just loved kickboxing. It was also a toxic time, because I was doing that because I was like in weddings and stuff and I wanted to look hot, but I was like inherently kind of starving myself. But I
Okay.
still really like to do kickboxing.
Oh, no, yeah. So you loved yourself the most physically when you were being the most toxic to yourself.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
Yeah, it is. Is there any part of you that would be okay? And just I want you to think about this, that would be okay if you never lost a pound, but you really liked what you saw in the mirror. Would you be okay with that?
Can I like be honest with you?
I
Like
would
really,
please.
really honest? Okay, so like I'm 30 now, right? So when I stand up in the mirror and I look at my butt, I have like secretary's ass is what they call it. Sorry. But you know how it like gets like wide and kind of flat, like a mom?
Mhm.
No offense to moms, but
But yes, we all know.
I don't know, like how your butt like gets like really, really wide and flat. I don't love that, right? Like I would rather like if I were to go do some squats for a week and you know how it gets like that really athletic shape to it. I
Yeah.
love that. Um so but like that's this does this make sense? Am I on a tangent?
No,
Trying
no,
to
no. You know I don't want you to ever self-edit. So like
okay.
so but however, not but however, you technically haven't answered the question.
Yeah. But my answer is that no, I wouldn't like myself.
But I'm saying like you do like yourself. You look in the mirror, you like yourself. Are you not okay with that?
With liking myself?
Mhm.
Well,
So, because the reason why I ask is there are things that are non-negotiables for us, right? Like I
mhm,
would never I would never be okay if I'm trying to think of something. Yeah, I for me, I probably would never be okay if I lost all my muscle. Because it's like, Sarah, you're better than that. Like you can work out, take care of yourself, and like be functional until you're 82 when I hope I die. Like, or like, yeah, that probably would be like the one thing that's like, I can never be okay with this. However, if like God came down tomorrow and he was like, hey, Sarah, I hate to tell you this. I want you to do everything that you're doing and serve others, give back to your community. You're never going to make more than $26,000 a year, and you're always going to live in a small apartment. So, like, I hope we're cool with that. Like, it would be really, really hard for me to be okay with it. However, if I was like, this is real, like this, I have purpose and it's okay. And one day, if I'm like, I'm good with this, I would be okay with that. It's not the idea that we are settling for being less than, for being heavier than we want, for being, more broke than we want. It's the idea that we can't even wrap our head around something, or the frustration or disappointment at the prospect of having to wrap our head around something. Because here's the other thing.
yeah,
What if you never lose a pound and you meet a guy who thinks you are just the most gorgeous thing on the face of the planet? Are you going to spend your time hating yourself when he is loving on you?
yeah,
Yes.
mm,
So, yeah, I mean, which is an honest answer.
yeah,
And it's good. And So you're right. What we have to figure out is how do we scooch you closer to loving yourself when it's not rooted in, I need to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah,
Um, are there any women who are fuller figure that you think are attractive?
Adele.
Great.
Love
I mean,
Adele.
you have the cheeks of Adele. So, when Adele, her success, do you look at it as, wow, I can't believe she's so successful for like a heavier woman, or like, oh, of course she's successful, she's gorgeous and her voice is amazing?
I like Adele because she is who she is. Like I like Adele because she is who she is.
Um, do you think her having a boyfriend is a surprise or no?
Um, no, it doesn't surprise me, but it also does kind of surprise me because I don't really like. I think that she should be single for the rest of her life, but that's like another tangent. I think
Uh,
that Adele is who she is, and she doesn't need a man.
Gotcha. So let's just say, we'll speak for Adele, that she chose to have a partner.
Yeah,
Um, so that means that someone who is fuller figured, who is undeniably everybody thinks is gorgeous,
hmm,
who is just so much like she is a definition of power in who she is, right?
yeah,
And she chose to have a partner.
hmm,
Like she wasn't like, oh, thank God someone loves me. She was just like, I'm choosing this, right?
yeah,
So is there ever a chance that you see that you could start being that type of powerful and being so much of yourself that you also are like, effing, I'm gonna eat a cheeseburger. I don't give a crap. And like, I wear the crap out of dresses and I look good and my cheeks are amazing. And like, yes, you, sir, you'll do, I guess. Like,
yeah,
would that feel good for you?
yeah. That would be awesome. That is like, yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
And so in that situation, I didn't say anything about you losing any weight,
Yeah,
but you would still be good with it.
yeah, I would love
Even
that.
See, but even though like just a minute ago you were like, "Oh, I would not be okay with looking at myself exactly as I am and liking that."
Yeah, why is that? It's
It's
like,
because you are looking at yourself here, right?
uh,
You're looking at yourself as the Lauren of like guys who have not treated you well, guys who have shot you down. Anything from when you were a kid where people either made disparaging remarks, um, treated you differently, whatever. You're looking at yourself as who you are up to this point. That vision of what I just described is who you can become.
yeah,
So it's not, it's, we don't, I mean, I shouldn't say we don't, I don't know Adele like that to be like, well, she never had these issues when she was a kid. She never had issues with boyfriends. She was never disrespected. I mean, I guarantee she probably was disrespected by some man, like,
maybe.
so maybe, maybe. Well, here's the thing, we all get disrespected, it's how we handle the disrespect, right?
Yeah, mhm,
So let me backtrack. I always do this. So I had made a remark about how with the email and the firing, you had a voice. You own the power of your voice. Are
mhm.
there examples in your past where you have felt like either you did not have a voice, or when you tried to have one, you were like knocked down?
Yeah, definitely. I think like even in my career, you know, having a seat at the table and being ignored or being refuted, that happens a lot. I don't think it happens now, but I think it used to happen a lot.
Why do you think it happened a lot?
Um, I think, yeah, I wasn't as confident. I didn't speak as clearly because I wasn't as confident. I was a little bit more mousy. It all just came from a lack of confidence.
And what would you say is the biggest deterrent to your confidence?
Ironically, probably not being listened to, the fear of rejection.
Okay, and I love that. Um, do you remember the first time that you were rejected or that you felt rejection?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Tell me.
Um, yeah, so I was in the most like piercing memory I have was I was in fifth grade and I had a crush on this boy named Jack. I was like in love with him, and he told me that I was ugly.
And obviously, how did that make you feel?
Awful. It broke my heart.
Um, did did it make you hesitant to speak up about like stuff after that? Like, did it like because obviously it's a big memory.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like the first in the card, the first in the shuffle. So like, do you think that like when was the second time you remember feeling rejection?
Um, it was probably in sixth grade when my friends and I were at a birthday party at a clubhouse, and I asked these really cute boys if they wanted to come, and they said, "Ew, no."
Why do you think Jack rejected you? Well, because he said that you weren't attractive, right?
Yeah.
What do you think he meant by that?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think he knew that I was in love with him. So I don't know. Like, maybe he didn't want to be in love with me. Maybe he just like wasn't into it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, did you like okay? And then the kids in sixth grade, they said, "Ew, no."
Yeah,
And how did you take that?
like as a rejection, like ew, like you're ugly. No.
So, do you, you have two guys who pretty much tell you, "I don't want to be with you because you're not attractive." Um,
Yeah.
do people compliment your face uh, either a lot or more than they compliment you as a whole?
Oh my God, all of the time. Like when I was in a sorority, I got best smile of the sorority for like 3 times in a row. And it was honestly the worst award a person could possibly get for me.
Yeah.
I was like, F you. Like my smile, like what, like, can I get a best thighs award? Like,
So is it fair to say that if we put all this together, um, it's it's easy to see how you could internalize that anything from here down is the problem.
yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, so and you not having a voice whenever you have really struggled with like guys or at work, were you ever, and I'm not putting it out or saying it's this, but I'm just asking, did you ever equate a lack of confidence or a lack of like promotion or a lack of whatever to how you look?
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, yes,
So
yes,
your fear of rejection seems to be pretty much wholly on the idea that your body is not good enough.
yeah,
But you're smart,
yeah,
you're witty,
yeah.
you're funny. Like
Mhm.
tell me two other things that you know about yourself personality wise. Or yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna actually hope that you could keep going, but um, I don't know. Yeah, uh, really like generous, like just a really good friend, um, and like authentic,
Well, let's
honest.
not even say really good friend. You're a generous person.
Yeah,
'Cause you don't only occupy one role in life. You're not just a friend. You
yeah,
are
exactly.
a daughter, granddaughter, you are a lover, you're a worker, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
So, and everybody wants to be called a generous lover, I feel like, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. What's up with
so
that?
yeah, like so you are what we have now figured out for sure is that fear of rejection. So rejection itself rooted very, very much in the space of rejection is equal to your body. People
Mhm,
love the face, they don't love the stomach. And we lose our voice when we only can accept half of ourselves or a part of ourselves, because the truth is that it's like you can't if you fill up 3 of your tires
mhm.
with like, oh, love, 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 this car is gonna go, and one tire is flat, it's going to impede the whole car.
Yeah.
Like, and the crappy thing is, like another analogy would be if you had like a bunch of gas and you close the room and you're like, in this room are all the things I love. Um,
Uh-huh.
the gas can be in the rest of the house, but in this room is safe. Gas will get in there, like there are vents and the space under doors, crevices, like it's going to get in there. It's going to infiltrate and it's going to still make it so that all of you gets poisoned,
Mhm.
right? So not only do you need to practice letting go of shame and having that conversation of like, here are examples when I have showed up for myself, spoken up for myself, had a voice, owned my power.
Mhm.
But also here are examples, and I'm going to like meditate, write these down, think of them each day of when I have held shame over something that actually was good for me. Because getting fired ended up being good for you.
Yeah.
Like, in the long scheme of things, what is more valuable? 1 year of financial security when you did have a support net to fall back on, or 1 year of literally meeting who you are, right? Like, I know that in the time you're like 1,000% financial security. Yes, give me the check. You know what I mean? But like now you're a year later, that time passed. Like
Yeah.
you're fine.
Mhm.
Like you have a roof, you have food, your kitties are taken care of. Like life is okay,
Yeah.
perfect, but it's okay. And
Mhm.
you are figuring out who you are, and you actually have the opportunity to sit back and be like, okay, where do I want to go? Because now that I'm learning who I am, now it's like maybe the vision I have for my life isn't actually what I want to do now.
Yeah.
Like the other thing that we have to, and so yeah, sorry, let me make sure I repeat that. So examples of when you have let go of shame, because or sorry, examples of when things that felt shameful ended up being good for you. So maybe it's the breakup that you don't want to like deal with. Are you petting your cat right now?
That was my cat. Did you
I
hear
was like, I feel like I just heard like a little something. Oh, hello. And I just saw like the slight lean. but but yeah, and so like writing down examples of things that like felt shameful but ended up being good for you also can help you get more distance, because like one thing I've done in the past with a client is looking at past relationships and writing out all the ways you would have accommodated that person, you would have taken from yourself to make that relationship work. And now that you have distance and you're learning who you are, is that who you want to be, where
Mhm.
you're being like, here, let me take this and put it in the relationship, so I can make this work, because I guess it's okay that you go out drinking 4 nights a week even though I don't love it, and you know what I mean. um the other thing is, and you know what, we're going to use Adele as an example. I want you to start figuring out what owning your voice and your power looks like. How does it feel? How does it dress? How does it communicate? How does it show up into a room? What type of boundaries does Adele powered Lauren have? Because like if I were to do this, right, and I used to call it like my ideal self, but I would walk into a restaurant, like wind blows and everybody's like, oh, and I'm just like, hello, like,
Yeah.
but like the real me would be like, hey, before I walk in, please tell me where you are because I'm not looking for you. I don't want to look. I like,
Right.
like, and so
Right.
like those little things of
Mhm.
how would that powerful woman
Mhm.
walk into a room? How
Mhm.
how does a Dell powered Lauren communicate? With authority or asking for respect?
Right.
How does she dress?
Mhm.
Like right now, the Lauren that you are you dressing in a way that you're just like, effing look at me? Or are you dressing like, I hope that no one looks at me?
Right.
So practicing things like that are going to help you because it just starts getting you to move closer in a direction of I want to step into that space.
Mhm.
You believe, honestly, do you believe that you are powerful and you just haven't found it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Does it feel like the power that you have, is it really far away? Like it's in you, but it's really far away.
Um, Depends on the day.
Yeah, no.
Uh, I think it's not too far away. I think it got closer this year.
If it was presented to you, like if I witnessed you being super powerful and owning your who you are and your voice, and I was like, holy F, you are freaking amazing. Would you receive that?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah. I
that
would. I wouldn't do it right now because I haven't gone it yet. But I will tell you that like I have felt this year like I have been drug through the mud,
yeah.
like big time. So going through this experience has really taught me like I can do it.
The other thing that I want you to practice and write this down is I want you to practice how you receive compliments.
Hmm.
We want to make sure that they get through that force field of like, oh, no, not me.
Yeah.
um, very much you, yes. So I don't care what method that you have to do. Um, it could be anything from when someone like I say, wow, like you look amazing today, and you go like, thank you very much. And then you like repeat it to yourself. Like, I do look amazing. Like, thank you. You know what? I did my hair. Thank you. Or like with your core group, you can do this where you're like, hey, like if I say, oh my goodness, your hair looks amazing. And you go, thank you. It's possible that you can compliment me on something other than how I look.
Oh,
Like you're allowed to ask for that, especially with people who want to see you succeed. Because
yeah.
like my core group of friends, they know that like I have a hard time receiving compliments on how I look, but
Mhm.
I for years was complimented on my body and never my face. So like my friends will be like, "Oh, your hair looks great." Or they'll be like, "Sarah, you're really like intelligent." Like my friends like just rarely, if ever, compliment me on my body.
Mhm.
Because they know that like when I'm complimented on my body, it makes me feel like I am only worth my body.
Right.
Um, the
100%.
the other thing that you can practice is if someone compliments you, you can like own it more aggressively. Oh, hey, like wow, your nose is so cute. I do have a cute nose, don't I? Thank you.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
some people may be turned off by it, but at this moment, you have to absolutely do everything that you have to for yourself.
Mhm.
And if
Yeah.
you are talking and they're, oh, that feels a little egotistical, you can just be like, oh, I'm working on stuff. I'm working on me. I'm
Mhm.
owning who I am and how great I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's those are your assignments.
Okay. All
All
right,
right.
that sounds good.
Easy peasy, right?
No.
I love your honesty. um, Lauren, before we end this episode, because I really loved this time with you, as I always do, is there anything that you want to say, ask, anything?
Um, oh, I, yeah, so I just want you to know that I just want to thank you for how far I've come.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really, really happy to have been a part of your journey at the start of it. I'm proud of you for you doing the work. Like I I was just kind of like the shove off on the Jamaican bobsled team. Except then I guess I didn't get it. I mean, I kind of got it anyway. Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. I really am proud of you. You're doing great and you are awesome. Um, Thank you so much for not only opening up and being vulnerable with me, but with the just thousands of people who listen to this podcast. No, like seriously, thank you for showing up for this conversation and being vulnerable, and allowing other people to identify themselves in you and to also feel empowered by the fact that you are like, I'm putting it out there. And honestly, when you do that, when we do that, it makes way more of an impact than you know.
Yeah.
So thank you very, very much.